pre-launch of TARIQ Alexander QAISER'S 4-volume set, Edge of the Delta, Karachi's Korangi Creeks. The Mangrove Forest, Man, Animal, Tree, Water, Birds of the Korangi Creeks, and the Bioluminescent Creek. I would request Alexander QAISER to please come on stage. Thank you.
I'm back. You can't seem to get rid of me. TARIQ Alexander QAISER is a very old friend and a wonderful, wonderful person who is doing the most incredible things. I've known him for the longest time. We were in school together. He's much junior to me, of course. But he's done tremendous work. He's an architect by training and profession, and that's his daytime job, as he says. But his passion is so many other things. It's photography, it's sailing, it's boats, it's family, it's poetry, it's everything. TARIQ went off into the mountains a few years ago, which I propelled him to do with my sister, his wife, my niece, my brother. And he came back with this incredible cache of photographs. There were about 1,000 photographs, and he showed them to me on his laptop. And I just looked at him and I said, "What the hell are you doing? This should be a book." So he didn't just turn it into a book. He turned it into the most incredible book called Apricot Bloom. And he accompanied it with prose and poetry. And I really recommend all of you to go and have a look and see if you can get hold of his book. And then he did another one called Samundar Par, and that's all about the sea and what we're losing every day. TARIQ has spent a lot of time in the mangroves. He, as I said, he has a passion for boats and sailing. But he spent a lot of time in the mangroves. He's done incredible research. And he has unearthed all kinds of things that we, people living in Karachi, should know about, but actually don't. Did you know that there are thousands of flamingos here? Thousands. And he has photographed them. There are camels that live on islands in the middle of the mangroves. And they're kept there so that they can be safe, not be sort of kidnapped and abducted and sold for meat or whatever. And their owners keep them there, and they take boats of clean water, fresh water, once every 3 or 4 days so that the camels can drink. There are all kinds of shrines, and there's ecosystems, and there's crabs, and there's mud skippers, and wonderful things that TARIQ is going to show you. But the main tragedy is that the mangroves are being destroyed, and we need people like TARIQ, eco-warriors like him, who save these mangroves for us. So I'd like you to all welcome TARIQ QAISER, give him a huge round of applause, and join him on his fight to save this place.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Adab Festival. Good afternoon. I'd like to start with a few words from Mr. Javed Akhtar. शायद इनको मैं गलत तरीके से इस्तेमाल कर रहा हूँ. कॉन्टेक्स्ट मुख्तलिफ है. अल्फाज ज़रूरी हैं. जिस माहौल में हम लोग रहते हैं, जिस पेचीदियों से हम लोग गुज़रते हैं, गुज़र रहे हैं, गुज़रते रहेंगे, उन पे ये बहुत अच्छी तरह बैठते हैं उनके अल्फाज. जो मैं काम कर रहा हूँ उस पे भी थोड़ा सा फिट ज़रूर है. और जावेद साहब, अगर आपके सुनने में कभी ये आए तो शुरू से ही मावज़रत, मगर अर्ज़ फरमाना चाहता हूँ. I'd like to start with a few words from a poet, Mr. Javed Akhtar. So Javed Akhtar साहब के अल्फाज, जीना मुश्किल है कि आसान, जीना मुश्किल है कि आसान, ज़रा देख तो लो. लोग लगते हैं परेशान, ज़रा देख तो लो. ये नया शहर तो है खूब बसाया तुमने. ये नया शहर तो है खूब बसाया तुमने. क्यों पुराना हुआ वीरान, क्यों करते हो पुराने को वीरान, ज़रा देख तो लो। इन चिरागों के तिले, इन चिरागों के तिले, आप चिरागों के तिले ऐसे अंधेरे क्यों हैं? इन चिरागों के तिले ऐसे अंधेरे क्यों हैं? तुम भी रह जाओगे हैरान, तुम भी रह जाओगे हैरान, ज़रा देखते तो रहो। मुझे इस इकोसिस्टम, इस माहौल से क़ुर्बत है, थोड़ी गहरी क़ुर्बत है। I have a affinity for this environment. It draws me and it pulls me to it. वो पेड़ जो पहले नज़र आया था, उससे मोहब्बत से ज़्यादा इश्क है। जावेद साहब का तबसरा कभी आप इश्क पे पढ़ लें, सुन लें, ज़बरदस्त है। These are the environments that I have been so drawn to and gone into, perhaps for over almost a decade and a half. I started going in there looking for pleasure, looking for pictures for my books. I'm a lover of nature. The sounds are from the mangroves. They're recorded in there. The channels are vast. They're vast and they're deep. And you brush against trees, you brush insects, spiders off, and you wind through these channels into a very, very deep and dense and healthy mangrove environment. This is on Bundle Island. Bundle Island is 15 minutes from Phase 8. It's just across Dodaria, and you can see most of them. The channels house incredible environments. And perhaps the most magical of things that I've seen is this flower. And the gentleman who introduced me to this flower is actually sitting here, and I caught him, Mr. Shuja Beg. He said, have you smelt the mangrove blossom? And I hadn't, and I still haven't, but it smells. I obviously can't smell, but I've been gifted with sight, and I use that. This is a flower that is not more than 1/4 of an inch thick, smaller than your nail on your small finger. You do not see it until you get up very, very, very close. There are so many of them that in spring, when they start blossoming, the entire olive green of the forest gets a halo of gold. It glows. And it is magical. This tiny little flower will grow into a seed that's the size of a badam, about 1 inch long. The seed falls off, drops in the water. The receding tide takes it out into the estuary, and they sprout roots. In the water, it can live for 5 months and still be viable. The roots start coming out while it's floating. The stem starts rising after that, and some of them will sprout leaves while still floating in the water. If this seed is lucky, it takes perch and it grows into this tree that has a start on that mud flat. If it's lucky, it becomes this forest. And if we are lucky, these shrubs become that tree. I also guarantee you this, that my grandson will not see this tree, because we will have used it for barbecue by then. Whenever I leave the mangrove forest, there's a great sense of relief, because the path in there is convoluted. It twists and turns, And you end up in these incredible spaces. They are spaces which make you lose orientation because you've not only lost your way horizontally, but when you're in there, you're surrounded by canopy. Shanaz taught me a word, the correct use of the word ensconce. Thank you for that. But you're ensconced by nature, you're ensconced by light and by leaves. And what's incredible out here is that when you stop your engines and stay still, you get a sense of vertigo because the light falls down towards you in shards, pierces you. The light gets reflected off these waters and pierces you from below. You lose the knowledge of the horizon. You lose the knowledge of where the real and the reflected lie. It is perhaps it is one of the most magical places I have ever seen. And there are countless spaces. These images are from Bundle Island. Bundle Island has 2.3 square kilometers of mangrove. It's 10% of that island. The island is slated for development. What is really needed is that when the development happens, because we can't stop progress, but we certainly can assist progress, that these mangroves on Bundle Island, these environments, these ecosystems, these little courtyards and cul-de-sacs in these mangroves are kept as a nature reserve and as an asset to the communities. Can easily be done by water treatment plants that feed the water in there. This is the subject of my first book. It's called The Sunken Forest, and it's in progress. The photography is done, the writing is in progress. We're waiting to have them printed up and the graphic work completed. The second book is on the life in the mangroves, both the symbiotic relationships between animal and the forest, the exploitative relationship between man and the forest and man and the animals in the forest. There's life here, very vibrant life. There's an economic activity here that gets to support communities and people. Fishing is the prime. Unfortunately, the substantial amount of fishing that's done is for these little fingerlings that are used to make chicken feed. This was a very typical working day on a second island that I've been working on. It's called Kapriyanwala. So they fish there for chicken. The chicken legs are cut, and the chicken legs are used to catch crabs. You see these men wading in the waters, paddling on their little container boats. And these were the sounds of the mangroves. We lost them a little bit. Then the camel herders. This is the sound of the callers calling the camels. There is a separate sound for making them move. There's a sound for making them drink, this one. Sweet water is brought to these camels in the hulls of boats. The camels are milked. The milk is sold in the market. It tastes very good. I've had it 2 seconds out of the udder, and it's very good. There's a relationship between these men and animals. And there's a lot of love, you can see that. Sometimes, when we are in the mangroves, we'll come across this, very rarely, but they do forage while wading in the water. This male with another one came, checked us out, came really close to the boat, went back, looked at us. They recognized us because I've been with this herd many times, and then they allowed us to get to their females and children. Men walk on water here. They walk on water. They feel clams and shellfish with their toes, pull out these beautiful mussels, gather them, sell them, and they're beautiful to look at. But would I eat them? They grow in probably with one of the most polluted soils. They dive. They free dive for this. This gentleman knows how to do a backflip. I didn't put it in the video, but every time I go, he does a backflip for me. The mudflats, extremely important part of our ecosystem out here. These gentlemen are there every time I go. They gather an animal called a bloodworm. The bloodworm is used for bait for fishing. So when the fishing boats go out for long lines, for bottom, they pull this worm out. What's incredible with this is that this worm is 5 feet long. And so I just want you to visualize this mudflat and these men who are pulling this worm out. These worms are traversing this mudflat horizontally. These mud skippers, my favorite creature there. Make burrows vertically in the sand. There's this belligerent, angry animal. I don't want to call this fish a relic of the past because it lives with us and it's a very viable existence. It's protected itself from becoming our food by being extremely toxic and poisonous. But it can live out of the water for 4 days. It breathes through its skin. It breathes by keeping its tail wet. It carries water in those cheek pouches that you see, that bulbous cheek pouch, and just has to replenish it periodically. But it does not need to be living in the water. It comes out on the mudflats. Birds prey on it. They're very vigilant. And in the waters, my first introduction to them was when a mud skipper, I didn't know it was a mud skipper, popped out with 2 little eyes out of blue, shiny eyes out of murky, murky green water. An animal that really needs to be introduced to us, and an animal that is part of our lifestyle and lives, I keep emphasizing, 15 minutes away by slow boat from Phase 8. Next, please. The next book is a book on the birds of Korangi Creek. I'm co-authoring this with Mirza Naeem Beg. Please, if you could stand up. It's a very dear friend and a photographer far more advanced than I am, and whose friendship I value and look forward to completing this volume. And Taimur Mirza, I didn't see him, so I don't think he's here, but Taimur Mirza is also a core part of my team. I photograph under the head of TAQ and crew, and my crew has these incredible, incredible people. So look forward to this volume. So if there are any further questions, please ask Mirza Saab about his book with us also. Next one. Birds. There are flamingos out here. Michael, you wanted to see the flamingos. I'll take you. The flamingos, the gulls. We have resident flocks. We have migratory flocks. Egrets are a resident. That was a very old one. Herons, eagles, and herons sitting together. But the most incredible story, which we're in the process of writing, is about the crows. These crows have adapted to live in the mangroves and compete with these eagles, the Brahmani kites. They fight for them, they win the fights. And they have learned not just to be scavengers. They have learned how to fish. We have witnessed them. They'll fly down they locate the fish, they'll fly down, they can't dive. So what they do is they go a foot above the fish, make a reverse delta wing, and they hover. And at the right moment, they drop down. Their claw goes right through the head or the eyes of the fish, and they pull it out. That fish that you saw was about 6 to 7 inches long. And they carry it and walk and fly. The other thing that is an adaptation with these crows is the distance of the flight. So what they will do is they will cross the creeks, which is about 2 miles, 3 miles, nonstop. They will fly in really hard winds, against the wind, close to the water, high above. You don't see that behavior in city crows. So this is an old animal that has completely adapted to it. So this is one of the subjects of one of our films. I haven't put in the other data in here because we're saving it. This is my favorite topic. It was the subject of my last book, Samandar Par. It's marine bioluminescence on our waters. What we don't know is that Pakistan is one of the marine biological hotspots of the world. We don't know it. What we also don't know is that this bioluminescence comes in a few times in the year right into the Korangi creeks, right to the Gulf Coast. This footage was taken in 2016. We just happened to be there on the waters with some friends. And I didn't have my full equipment there, but I managed to get this done. I had my DSLR. These are unedited pictures. They're not photoshopped. So this was just opposite the Gulf Coast, that image. So this year, I'm hoping to be able to get out there at the right time. You have to be lucky. So we keep a tab on when the bioluminescence is on the beach. This was on the beach. And those 2 days or 3 days after that, the winds should have pushed it into the estuaries. And I'm hoping to get my final footage for the next book and the video for this bioluminescence this year. So, wish me luck. Next, please. This is a very important part of the presentation because our mangroves, our delta is at risk. It's dying because there's very little sweet water coming down into the river. This is Katie Bandar in 2017. It speaks for itself. There's incredible work being done on the mangroves. There's incredible. The forestry department, IUCN, WWF, a whole bunch of NGOs, a whole bunch of corporate companies planting. 2009 plantation. The mangrove plantation is on the rise, but it's on the rise in areas where there's very, very little sweet water or none. Pollution, very endemic. There's plastic everywhere. There's plastic up on 10 feet up in the trees in the mangroves. And our cities and waterways are full of effluent and dirt. Our food sources are there. How much water do we treat? Hypothetical, I don't think anyone knows. There's the numbers that are thrown out. I've been working on Bundle Island. This island that you see is Bundle Island there. 24 square kilometers, 2.3 square kilometers are dense, healthy, pristine mangroves. They are at risk. Let's have no doubt about it. This is a footage this year, and His Excellency, Consul General of Germany, Eugen Wolfart, was there when I took that picture. This is the North Shore of Bundle Island last year. And there's life here. It's very vibrant life. It's a nursery for all our fisheries. The migratory birds come in. The cormorants came in this year in the thousands. At high tide, the fishermen come into the creeks. we recognize each other. I recognize the boss, they recognize me. It's become a very nice relationship. The channels and the mangroves are very, very dense, and they're deep, and they're extensive, and they're a home to so many species, including a jackal, including 14 kinds of snakes, lots of insects, the most incredible honeybees, wasps that I have never seen the size of, just beautiful. And it's been rewarding. The second island is an island called Kipriyanwala, and this is its fate. This is the tree that I'm in love with. ये वाला वो दरख्त है जिससे मुझे इश्क हुआ हुआ है, और ये मुझे 2 साल से मिल नहीं रहा. मुझे शक पड़ रहा है कि ये कट गया है. उम्मीद में रहता हूँ. Hopefully I might find it again, but I know these channels very well, so I think it's gone. I'd like to show this footage because this footage purposely made a duality of screens because I would like you to feel the stress of these two statuses of the ecosystems. Both of these were filmed in the same month. Yeah. So no matter what anyone says, no matter what any authorities say, these mangroves are at threat. They are at threat for some very realistic, pragmatic reasons and some really sad reasons. People have been harvesting this wood for centuries for heating their homes and cooking, and it's necessary, and sustainable harvesting can be achieved. IUCN has created programs that have been resisted by the locals and the wood mafias. But if you look at this, I mean, it's decimation. It's just absolute decimation that's happening. So, July 2019, this particular video. This is recent. This is a personal statement. It's the way I feel. And this video was taken 2 weeks ago on Bundle Island, which is a protected forest, which is under the protection of the Navy. Tree huggers. Tree huggers lose battles. Tree huggers lose battles. Tree huggers have their legs cut. They are cut with the trunks of the trees that they hug. Tree huggers learn you don't need long legs to stand tall. I am a tree hugger. And I will lose. But does that matter? Nothing lasts forever, not even a tree, not even us. But it is sad that when we have something as wonderful and something as old something older than us as individuals, and we allow it to be used for commercial purposes and not necessities of life alone. And to refer back, I would just like to say one last thing. Zara dekh to lo, zara dekhte to raho. Thank you. So I've timed myself to finish, to leave a few minutes for question and answers. I'd be very happy to answer them. Naeem, would you like to come up, please? And Dr. Wolfert, you have been into the mangroves with me. Could you come up also? I'd like you to say a few words on this. And
I do that very willingly. I was fascinated when I came to Karachi, because inside Karachi, you see at some parts a lot of green. You see parrots, you see former birds, but it was really breathtaking for me when TARIQ Alexander QAISER took me to the mangroves. And that showed how close and how strong nature resists to the challenges that come from the civilization. TARIQ said rightfully, you cannot stop progress, but you can help it, assist it. And one of the good things is to create the awareness, and the way you do it, Alexander, is a really beautiful way, because it shows on one hand the beauty, the ecosystem, the people and the animals living in it, and the vicinity of the city. And it must not be a contradiction. It can go together. One of the keys might be in doing something for the sewage. Some of you have heard me that I'm very much in favor that the beaches become clean, that the mangroves are saved, and that the living quality in this wonderful city, the City of Lights, become better. I don't want to make many more words. I would like to return to the mangroves and support the good work of Alexander TARIQ and his team. It's just great. Thank you, and thank you for presenting.
I'd be very happy to take questions. I'll get you a mic. Go on. Could we, TARIQ, just come up here. Sorry, I apologize.
TARIQ, you know, I'm involved in seacoast infrastructure a little bit, and I have a good relationship with the Shamspir people in the Sandspit area, where there's also a mangrove and the World Wildlife Fund, the WWF, and everybody's working. I know that you've gone far-flung in that side. The question I have to ask you is, you know the Juma Goat area that is across from the Diamond Head or the Bundal Island? Have you ever been there? No. Let me tell you something. Don't lower your window of your car, because the effluent from that area goes straight into Juma Goat. But there's a question.
I've driven by many times and not
Now,
gone into the goat.
I understand in the case of the Bodensee in southern Germany, the Swedish carried out a cleaning of the Bodensee. And what happened there was the fisheries, the fish died, from what I read of the report. Now, we have organic, I want to know the difference between organic discharge, which is sewage and raw human sewage, versus that. I mean, I'm against the chemical discharge, right?
I have the answer for you.
Yeah, that's what I want to know, is what's the difference in that? Yeah.
I'd just like to answer this question. Why is the delta dying? And why are the mangroves in Port Qasim, Korangi Creeks, Chinna Creek surviving? It's sewage. The delta has no sweet water left, very little, hardly any. Karachi treats none of this water. It gets poured out into the Indian Ocean full of chemicals and all the chickens we've eaten the day before. These mangroves are thriving. You've witnessed it. There isn't a smell in there. Zulfikar Saab's been in there with me. Many of my friends have been in there. And they've experienced this. There is no smell in there. This plant, the mangrove, we have 4 species. The dominant one is the Avicenna marina. The Avicenna marina is the one that I showed, and the whose flower I showed. It can live in salt water, sweet water, brackish water. Yes, please. Map dikha dein. One more. Ek click or please. So this plant is this incredible plant that will survive in chemical toxins and will survive in organic toxins. And there's a bit. 2 minutes? Yeah. So it's an incredible thing, and I'd be happy to talk about it on some other forum. One more question, sir, please. Aapne pucha tha.
मैं उर्दू में बात करूंगा।
उर्दू में जवाब दूंगा।
जी, मैं पाकिस्तान फिशर फोरम कराची का जनरल सेक्रेटरी हूँ। तालिब कच्ची मेरा नाम है।
मुलाकात हुई है।
12 साल की उम्र से मैंने इस मैंग्रोव्स को बहुत करीब से देखा, और आपने जो डॉक्यूमेंट भी चलाए बहुत अच्छी थी, बहुत खुशी भी हुई। लेकिन इस मैंग्रोव्स को जिस बेदर्दी से काटा जा रहा है, बहुत ही दुख होता है, बहुत दुख होता है। कराची के रहने वालों को भी पता होना चाहिए कि ये हमारे नस्लों को हिफाजत के लिए खामोश सिपाही है। मैंग्रोव्स के दरख्त सोनामी को बचाते हैं, तो पूरा शहर इसके खिलाफ हो जाए। जो ये काट रहे हैं, जो काट रहे हैं इस दरख्त को।
सर आप इधर खड़े होके बोल रहे हैं, जल्दी से, मेरा 2 मिनट आराम। बस एक कह दें, बस जल्दी से खत्म कर लें।
मैंने बचपन से इसको देखा है, इसको उजड़ते हुए भी देखा है। मैंग्रोव्स को जो ये पौधे लगा रहे, यकीन करो ये लाखों जो पौधे लगा रहे उसमें एक भी पौधा नहीं होता है, ये सारे ख़त्म हो जाते हैं। जो लगा रहे उससे ज़्यादा काटा जा रहा है। इस पे खुदा के लिए कुछ करें, ये कराची को तबाह कर देंगे ये लोग, ये माफिया जो है तबाह कर देंगे। मैंग्रोव्स नेमत है हमारी बहुत बड़ी।
सर ये कर रहे हैं तबाह। आप हमारे साथियों की आवाज़ें सुनें और उनकी बातें सुनें और याद रखें प्लीज़। थैंक यू।